Hello and welcome to a special edition of the Scarf Bagara War with me, Russ Johnson, and I'm joined by Waggie as always. You all right, mate?
Yeah, very good, thanks. Very good. Looking forward to this one. Should be interesting.
Should be interesting. So this is a special episode. We're joined by Carlton Palmer, no less. He's going to give us the inside track on his time at County, probably talk a bit about England and just him in general and how he saw it going. So yeah, should be interesting. And what we'll do as well, Waggie, we'll come back afterwards and discuss how it went. Yeah, you for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Good stuff. Right. Well, without further ado, here's Carlton Palmer. You're joking! So we are delighted to be joined by England international and former county player manager Carlton Palmer. Hi, Carlton. You okay, mate?
Yeah, no, good to be here, mate. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. I'm just in Portugal at our holiday home. The weather's beautiful, so yeah, loving it.
Excellent.
Nice one. So
much different to here. It's absolutely peeing down again, but we are in England.
We are in South Manchester, aren't we? So
yeah.
My wife just told me that she's a school teacher. She's flying out on Saturday night, so you know, it is what it is with the UK. The weather's just really, and it has been, you know, for the last. Lucy and I got back from China from 3 years ago, and the weather's just been absolutely horrendous. I feel for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to put a bit of a twist on this, not maybe talk about some of the things that have been covered in the past when it comes to yourself and Stockport County. I'm sure we'll touch on some of those elements because they'll naturally come up in this conversation. But where I wanted to start was maybe in a bit more depth than what maybe you've spoke to Stockport County people in the past, or certainly journalists, is on a pure footballing level. You took that player manager job, and you had to balance that relationship between being a player and being a manager. And I've never spoken to a player manager before at the second tier of English football, which, you know, is just like a fantastic level. How did you manage that, going from being a player to the manager in the changing room and on the pitch?
It was really difficult, to be honest with you. I can say that now, looking back. At the time, I thought I would be able to deal with it. I had Kevin Richardson came in as my assistant, top bloke, and I thought I could deal with it. You know, I spoke to Brendan Elwood. Brendan Elwood, who was the chairman of Stockport County at the time, was a fantastic bloke. He contacted me. I had 2 years left on my contract at Coventry, but I'd come to the end where, you know, it was time for me to retire from playing football. And when you take that first job, it's always difficult. You've got to make sure you get it right. Ron Atkinson said to me, "Are you sure you got it right with Stockport?" You know, they were, 7-8 points adrift at the bottom of the league when I took charge. But I took the job like whenever I played my career. I never signed for a club in terms of, I wanted to sign for Sheffield Wednesday, or I wanted to sign for Leeds United, or I wanted to sign for Southampton. No, I signed for a club because I wanted to work for the people that were there. Brendan Elwood was a fantastic, and he still is, a very good bloke and a very good friend of mine. And that was the reason why I took the Stockport County job. It was difficult circumstances. I knew that when I took the job. Ron Atkinson actually warned me and said to me, "Carlton, this is your first job. You've got to be really, really careful." But I knew that I'd made the right decision to go and work under Brendan Elwood. And, you know, I'm happy with my time at what I did there, bringing the players through that I brought through. The only reason why I didn't go on to do any better there was because of the new owners that came in.
So following on from that, saying about, you know, some of the players that you brought through. So obviously we had some really good players at that time that have gone on to do really good things. Think like Rickie Lambert got on playing for England, playing for Liverpool. Luke Beckett, who was probably, you know, one of our top 10 strikers. How did you approach your development of, like, well, bringing them in, and also how you develop them as players, because obviously they moved on and went on to bigger and better things since county.
Yeah, no, to be fair to you, Luke Beckett, that's how good it was with the chairman when I signed the football club. Brendan Elwood rang me and said, right, listen, Carlton, you need to go and have a look at this player. Luke Beckett is playing for Chesterfield, scoring goals after goals after goals. He said, it's 100%. He said, if you want him, I'll get him. And at the time, I rang Kevin Richardson up and I said to him, who's my assistant, I said, go and watch this kid at Chesterfield. The boss has just phoned me and he said, it's a certainty. He's £500,000. He'll get him in for us. Rico went to watch him and Rico rang me up. He said, Gaffer, the chairman's absolutely spot on. We brought Luke Beckett into the club and he was absolutely sensational for us.
Yeah.
He was absolute, not just, don't listen, at the end of the day, it's what you do on the football pitch. But as a bloke, he was absolutely fantastic. You know, and it's one of those things. I was lucky that my chairman, Brendan, knew the game of football. He knew what he was talking about. So any conversation we had about football was always on a level where he knew what he was talking about. So, you know, I remember when I first took over the job and Brendan said to me, what do you think? I said, well, let me have a look at it. So he gave me £500,000. He said, you do what you want to do with this £500,000. So me and Rico looked at the squad. Obviously, the first game, we went down to Watford, who were top of the league, and got a draw. We then played Norwich at home, who was second in the league, and beat them, and I scored the winning goal. So you think, oh, away we go. Everything's brilliant. We'll get out of there. But the results didn't go for us. Everybody else got results. And then what happened was the squad actually wasn't good enough. So I went back to Brendan and I said to him, listen, Brendan, we need to use this £500,000 because those players at the time were on big money in that league because the club was bankrolled by Brendan. It wasn't run on a financial footing like, you know, clubs should be. Stockport was run on the fact that Brendan put in 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, whatever he wanted to do a year, whatever he had to do. And he wasn't bothered about that because he loved football. So I went back to him and I said to him, listen, we need to get rid of these high wage earners and get them out of the football club. And then we start again. The youth team had some really good players, the likes of Andy Walsh and people like that. And so we went about and bringing in the likes of Jim Goodwin, bringing those players in. And we went down the route. Brendan came to me, unfortunately, which was really sad. His wife had dementia and he couldn't devote the time that he was devoting to the football club. But he said to me, Carlton, I've sold out to people that I believe will take the club forward, which was Brian Kennedy. And that was the biggest mistake that Brendan ever made for Stockport County.
Yeah, I've seen him since actually at a do probably about 18 months ago now, 2 years ago. And he said, he didn't say it to me, he said it in front of everybody. If he'd have known what they were going to do with it, he would never have sold it to them.
100%. He told me exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Back to the players then, the players that you had. I mean, some of the names that you've said there, and now I was watching it at the time. I was a season ticket holder. I watched all it through. Some of the players are magnificent. I just wanted to touch on Rickie Lambert specifically because he went on to play for England, obviously, clearly. Did you see anything special in him at that time? Did you know he could potentially be England material, having been there yourself?
Oh, listen, 100%. I said to the gaffer, I went and speak to Brendan. I said, I want to bring this kid in called Rickie Lambert. And he said to me, how much is going to cost us? And I told him. He said, that's a lot of money. But I knew what Rickie had potentially. Spoke to Rico. Rico was on the same page as me. We signed him. It was a lot of money for Stockport County at the time. And Rickie just wasn't fit. And he couldn't get his head around being fit. I pulled him in the office one day. I said to him, you know what? If you get fit, son, you'll play for England. But it was Rico. I remember one night I got a phone call from Rico. I was at the house, and it must have been, because Rico was always thinking about football. Always thinking about football. And I got a phone call. It must have been about 1:30 at night. Gaffer, I've got it. I said, what? He said, we'll play Rickie in the top half of the field. He doesn't have to track back. All he's got to do is find space and cause problem for the opposition. And that's what Rico said to me. And that's how we set the team up. And that's how Rickie Lambert went on. I said when I signed him, he had the potential to go on and play for England. And I'm delighted that he went on to do that. He was a lovely kid. He just wasn't fit. But he loved to play football. He just loved it. He loved when he got on the football pitch. He just enjoyed playing football. And we found a position for him that worked for us. And he was sensational. The day I lost my job, I'll tell you now, or the day I thought I was going to lose my job, was Northampton away. And I'd been injured the week before. And Rico said to me, you need to play today, Gaffer. I said, we got a result the week before. And when I left the house, my missus said to me, make sure you play today. And we were playing Northampton away. And I got sent off before half time. I thought it was a bit harsh. But again, referees, big name, this, that, and the other. And Rico, as I was walking down the tunnel, Rico looked at me in disgust. So I went up into the director's box because obviously if you get sent off, you can't go on the touchline. And Brendan Elwood turned around to me and said to me, I will never sack you. I will never sack you. And that second half at Northampton still will go down as one of the best halves of my managerial experience, because me and Rico worked on everything, going down to 10 men and whatever. But that performance was unbelievable. Rickie Lambert scored the winning goal. We had 10 men, and it was just frightening. So on the way home, I said to Rico, what did you say to the lads? And he said, I just told them straight. He said, none of you be playing in the first team, Andy Welsh, Jim Goodwin, all these, if it wasn't for the gaffer. You owe him. And they did. And to be honest with you, it was an unbelievable performance. And then we kicked on. We went on a really good run. And the lads got belief in themselves, So listen, I can't tell you, my time at Stockport was brilliant. The players, Brendan Elwood, like I say to you, I still have a drink with Brendan and go out. Brendan's a very close friend of mine, and I can't tell you, people don't realise all the time when you're a manager, you can't come out and say the things that you'd like to say. The previous manager, who was Shefty Cookie's agent, had run the club into the ground, basically. And Brendan, who's a loyal person, said to me, I left him in charge too long, which he did, which cost us, relegation.
So, just, you mentioned Shefty Cookie, and I know he basically down tools, didn't he, on the first day? Didn't want to play for you or anything. How did you manage that, and how did you prevent that from having an adverse effect on the rest of the squad, being that you'd only just come into the club?
I couldn't believe it. I really couldn't believe what happened on the first day of my job. So Brendan phones me and says to me, we've got an offer for 500,000 for Shefty Cookie to go to Blackburn. So I said to him, how much did you pay for it? He said, we paid 350 grand. I said, well, hang on a minute. He's a Finnish international. Seems a bit low to me.
Mm.
So I've come in the first day. We're having a practice game. He's refused to play. He's refused to play. This is on my first day in the job. My first day in the job. So Rico said, what are you going to do? I said, well, get him in after the game. So we got him in after the training session, sat down. He said he wants to go to Blackburn. I said to him, listen, the club's paid this amount of money for you. I'm not selling you for 500,000 to go to Blackburn. I said, it's not happening. So I said to him, these are my actual words. I said to Shefty Kuki, give me some time. Give me the best you can. And if it doesn't work, I will facilitate your move. His agent and him kicked off. If it wasn't for Kevin Richardson, I would have chinned him there and then in the room. My first day in the job, I would have chinned him. I would have actually chinned him. But I didn't know. Do you know who's his agent?
No.
Andy Kilner.
No way.
Really?
Andy Kilner was his agent. He was living at Andy Kilner's house. That was his agent.
Wow. I didn't know that. Didn't know that.
Yeah. That was his agent, Andy Kilner. Right? I walked into the office. Let me tell you, Andy Kilner was the manager. I don't know who he is, where he's from, and I'm not slagging him off, but I walked into the office, opened the drawers. There was just magazines from top BMW cars and whatever. He signed all these players, you know. And then I found out he was Shefty Kuki's agent. So, you know, Rico had to stop me because I would have chinned him. Honestly, 100% I would have chinned him. And he down tools. You got the leading goal scorer, the top player in that league who's down tools. And that's the first day of my job. So I've got Graham Souness on the phone to me at Blackburn. So I said, no, I'm not selling it to you, Graham. I've got my guys on it. It's worth more than that. And this sums up Shefty Kuki. And he can't argue with this because it's a fact. He went to Sheffield Wednesday, who were the bottom of the league, for 1.2 million. I had Wolves, I had Burnley, who were the top of the league. So all he was bothered about is money. And then when he come back, do you remember when he come back with Sheffield Wednesday? I was 38 years of age. And I told him when he walked out, so I played him in the game. I said, you won't get a kick today. I never got a kick. I said to Dave Chandler, step in front of me, leave him to me. I caught him offside. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing at the age of 38.
There we go.
Nice. I love it. Just touching on, you said Brendan Elwood, and Brendan Elwood left because of family circumstances, and then Brian Kennedy came in. What changed around the club? Because from a fan's perspective, it was heart-wrenching, and we went through a torrid time after that for the next, 10, 15 years or whatever. Did you see anything visible in the club where it sort of started to change culturally from Brendan to maybe Brian?
First day. We walked into the office, right? And I said to Rico, I've just got Northampton on the phone now for me and Rico to go. Rico said to me, Gaffer, we can't leave here now. He said, we're on the brink of doing something special. We've got all these kids, you know, he said, and I felt that as well. But I just felt we were sat outside his office and he's on the phone. No, we weren't outside his office. We was inside his office and he's on the phone talking to somebody in Marbella about delivering cut glass to his yacht. I said to Lucy, I said to Rico, I said, this is not for us. I said, we need to go. And Rico turned around to me and said to me, Gaffer, we've done all these work with these kids. So let me tell you why Brian Kennedy sacked me. I was on $8,000 a week as player manager, and he brought in Sammy McElroy on about, I think, 75 grand. So that was the difference. So that's why he sacked me. He had no intention of doing whatever about football. His only intention, his only intention was about rugby, and we should have gone. And I said to Rico, we should have gone, and that proved to be the case. When he sacked me, you know, we played Wimbledon the opening day of the season, or Wickham, sorry, opening day of the season. Luke Beckett does his cruciates, right, which is heart-wrenching. We battered them. The referee allowed them extra time, half time, because they're all being sick because of the heat, which was never discussed. And we actually should have won that game. But the fact that we lost Luke Beckett was a major, major problem. But when he sacked me, when he phoned me up and he said to me, Carlton, we need to have a discussion. If you look at the first 6 games, you know, we drawed 4. So he sacked me, and they didn't get relegated that season. They got relegated the following season, of which he blamed me. The following season. It wasn't that season they got relegated. It was the following season.
So obviously you mentioned about the financial difficulties. Obviously that's going to affect like your play recruitment, your resources, and that type of stuff. Did that impact your ability of actually being able to do the job that you was brought in to do, to be the manager? And did it have an effect, or was it more along the lines of, you know, you had to get rid of some of the players and stuff?
To be honest with you, no. I'll be honest with you. What happened was, we were in the championship at the time when I took over, and the wage bill was ridiculous. So Brendan, it wasn't run on a financial sensibility. The club was run on the basis that Brendan was chucking money in every 6 months.
Yeah.
And I said this to Brendan, it can't continue. We have to run this on a financial footing. So players that I got rid of that were on 4-year contracts that I didn't really want to get rid of, you know, we just had to do it because, you know, you can't just keep players in on that, going down to a level. Now we've gone from a championship down to the first division as it was at that time. And we're playing the likes of Scott, who was, I didn't want to get rid of Scott. Everybody's having a go at me. Yes, he scored 16, 70 goals. I would have kept him. But the problem is he was on a 4-year contract on big money. You know, so that's what you have to do. You can't come out as a manager and say, right, listen, the problem we've got now is we're now relegated. This is the budget. Right? So therefore, I made a decision to do what I did and to run the football club properly, because Brendan and I had a great relationship. That relationship changed when Brian Kennedy took over, and he's done what he's done. He's run the club into the ground. It was brilliant to see them now getting, you know, Dave Chandler was my former player. People forget that I signed Dave Chandler, so I know what he's about. I know what his character's about. I know what he is about. So I'm super happy to see him doing well. I'm super happy to see Stockport doing well, obviously, 100%. But at the time, it was really difficult for me. I had to make difficult decisions. You couldn't come out publicly and say those things that you had to do. But you remember when we beat Man City at the end of the season, I remember Burnley came in there. Everybody's coming and saying, Carlton, you've got it right here with this group of lads, which I knew I had it right.
Away, Palmer's with him. Oh, brilliant play from Carlton Palmer. Absolutely magnificent defending. Welsh. Now then, this time Burns away. Arnica's in the middle if you can see him. Arnica's there. Arnica has scored. Stockport County are 2-1 up.
Yeah. Couple of things there. I mean, I think you had it right with the players, definitely, because loads of the players are now cult heroes at the club, and loads of them went on to do really, really well, didn't they? So that's the proof's in that pudding. Just a bit on Dave Challoner as well. I interviewed Dave Challoner a couple of years ago when we won the National League, and he said that his playing time when he was there with yourself, he could feel the club being dismantled bit by bit when he was playing. So we were on a downward trajectory, weren't we? We were being devolved almost at the time.
Oh yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, Brian Kennedy came in to dissolve the club, and take it over for the rugby. And he lied to Brendan Elwood. Brendan Elwood believed that he wanted to take the club forward. And that's what he did. But he didn't win because Brendan Elwood still owned the land. He still owned everything. But it was just so sad for the supporters, what they did, because, the supporters were brilliant with me, absolutely brilliant with me. And I loved being manager of Stockport County. I wish I could have taken it on a bit more, but I needed the time. And when Brian Kennedy came in, I knew my time was numbered, just because basically of my salary, and that I was a footballing man, and he's a rugby guy. So it is what it is.
So when you initially came in with under Brendan, was one of your tasks to avoid relegation, or had they already had Brendan already accepted the fact, and part of that was that we were going down, so you needed to trim the squad, you needed to trim the wages and stuff? Or did you believe that when you took over that you could keep us in the league?
That was never the conversation. When I took over, I honestly believed that I could keep us in the league. I'm not going to lie to you. And Brendan was like, okay. I mean, you asked Brendan, I think there was 70 applicants for the job, and he gave the job to me. I believed that we could stay up. But when you're at the bottom of the league, you know what the hardest thing is? Other results. So the first game, Watford away, we get a draw, top of the league. Next game, Norwich at home, I scored the winner. You think, great. All the other results went against us. You know what I mean? So it was really tough. And then I went to, after things settled down, I went to Brendan and said, we're not going to stay up. We need to, cut the wage bill. We need to get rid of these players, and we need to sort out what we do. Scott Taylor, I didn't want to let us sell Scott Taylor, but, at the end of the day, you have to do what you have to do. You speak to Ali Gibb, you speak to these players. They know what I'm about as a person. I'm a loyal person. But business is business. You can't come out and say, oh, well, at the end of the day, we're going to get relegated because you're not going to get the sponsorship for the next season.
Right.
Brendan left. Do I think the squad was good enough to stay up? I don't know. You look at Kareem and you look at Shefty Kuki, you look at all those players. I don't know. Brendan said to me when he appointed me, he left Andy Kilner in charge too long. And that's what he did. But that's Brendan. Brendan's a loyal person.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I love it. I love him to bits. Still now, I love Brendan to bits.
Yeah. I take it the Brendan thing is the Sheffield connection, is it? Did you meet him through Sheffield? Is that how that came about?
No, up until I took the Stockport. I know Brendan lives in Sheffield,
Yeah.
but up until I got the Stockport job, I never met him before.
Right. Okay. Nice. Interesting. Okay, just talking about Dave Challoner for a second then, because like you said, we did know we'd signed him. We did our research. I mean, I was there at the time anyway, so we were about at the time. Just a bit on Dave Challoner. Did you, when you signed him, obviously you signed him as a centre half, long throw. I don't know if you know this, but you and Dave Challoner on the radio were called the Old Guard. So when you went up for a corner, it was the Old Guard going up for a corner. I thought that was quite nice. Did you see the managerial qualities in Dave then, as a defender, as a captain, as a leader?
No, 100%. But when I look back now, I signed Alex Neil at Mansfield. Look at him, what he's gone on to achieve as a manager. I signed, Dave Chandler. Look what he's gone on to do as a manager. What I try to do is, whenever I become a manager, through working for the likes of Ron and Howard Wilkinson, I try to impart the wisdom that they've given me, and Dave Chandler, when I signed him from Tranmere. He came to us. He was outstanding in the dressing room. He was outstanding with the lads. We had a fallout. I think it was Grimsby. When I pulled him off, he did a really bad tackle, broke the kid's leg, and I pulled him off. But I don't think they meant to do that. I really 100% don't mean. He's a 100% kid, and I'm delighted to see him doing well. Dave Chandler was absolutely magnificent for me. And you know what? In life, I've always believed in this. Karma is one of those things. You know, what goes around comes around. And when I signed Dave Chandler, he was a great lad, and he's proven to be a great lad. And so the lads are loving him that are playing for him, and he's getting all the success he's got, and I'm so pleased for him.
Just touching back on you said about like the different managers that you under, did you base your management style on any of them in particular, or did you sort of try and pick good parts from those managers that you played under? Because obviously you played under some big names, didn't you?
No, I just tried to be me.
Okay.
You know, you have the experiences from playing under the names like Howard and Ron. You know, Andy Welsh did a podcast not so long ago, and he said he'd never be like me. West Brom away, you know, I got all the boys down on New Year's Eve and had a drink, and we got beat 5-0 the next day. They were all young kids. I knew we were up against it, against West Brom the next day. But he didn't understand that. Big Ron did it with us so many times. But if you've got the quality of the players, it's not a problem. But still, you know, you have to understand that. You know what I mean? Like I said to Andy Walsh at the time, you've gone and said that, but you're not at the level that we're playing at. You know, you're not a level at playing at the Premier League. You're not playing in the Champions League. What I try to do is introduce something to you guys that you would go on. And to be fair to him, he didn't do a bad job when he was managing at Burnley. Was it Burnley he went to?
Oh, Andy Welsh, Bury.
He didn't do a bad job there, you know, managing. But the problem is with the game is you don't understand the intricacies of setting things up. So he can come out and say, well, yeah, I can't believe Carlton Palmer. We got beat of West Brom 5-0 on New Year's Day. We played West Brom on New Year's Day at Sheffield Wednesday. They were staying in the hotel under Ron Atkinson. We were all bollocks. They went to bed and beat them 3-0 next day. It's a mentality. It's levels.
Yep.
Yeah. Coming into present day then, I know you touched on it before about County. What do you make of the current situation? And the obviously you're a good. I think are you friends with Charlie still, or do you look out for County's results?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I always look out for County's results. I'm so pleased for Dave Chandler. Like I said to you, he's a lovely guy, great guy. One of my first signings when I was manager of Stockport. He's a stand-up guy, and I'm so delighted for the club. I really am.
Nice one. Do you still speak to him at all, or do you ever have you spoken to him for a long time?
I haven't spoken to him in a long while, but you know, I put on Twitter. I do. Obviously, I don't know whether he looks at social media and whatever, but I always, you know, when Stockport County are doing well and they're getting the results, I always, you know, tweet back and say it's fantastic. And you know, what's that? Back-to-back promotions now.
No, it's 2 in 3 years.
2 in 3 seasons, yeah. 2 in 3 seasons.
Which is absolutely fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's going the opposite way from when you were there, and it was starting to be devolved, and we're just ramping up now, and it's great to see.
Times.
Yeah.
That was brilliant. The supporters were brilliant with me. I'll never forget that night. And it wasn't just the night, right? Let me tell you, we played Burnley, and they were all saying to me, Carlton, you've got it right. You've got it right. But when we beat Man City that night, John Artica scored the 2 goals. I'll never, ever forget that night. Ever.
Was there something different said in the changing room about that night? Because I think they were top at the time. We were bottom.
We just got relegated the weekend before, haven't we? We got beat by Wimbledon, and that was us relegated the weekend before we played City.
I must have erased that from my mind.
Nothing changed. We were just progressing. So that was just a natural progression of what was happening with the team.
Right. Nice. Well, that lives long in the memory of county fans in a massively positive way.
Yeah.
One of the great nights at Edgeley Park that is fondly remembered. So
100%. It was absolutely fantastic. And to give the fans something back and see what we're developing with the young kids. John Hardiker was a young kid coming through, huge potential. It was absolutely fantastic. Great evening.
Yeah. So moving into sort of other areas then, England and things like that. What do you think of the current England setup? Because I know you played 19 caps, was it you had for England, which is fantastic. And you are the first and probably only England international we'll have on this podcast. So thank you very much for that. You are, so that's brilliant. I just wanted to get your thoughts on one particular player, Jude Bellingham, leggy midfielder from Birmingham. Does that ring any bells? What do you think of Jude?
I think he's just an outstanding footballer. He really is. What can he achieve? I think already now he's one of the best midfield players in the world. That's a fact. Look at his stats at Real Madrid. I just think England have got to get it right. I've said this before. I think, Harry Kane's gone to Bayern Munich, scored a load of goals, but he's not won anything again.
Mm.
So I asked the question, does Harry Kane start for England? Because if you're looking at it, if you've got Foden and Bellingham, which, Foden can play as a number 9. I'd like to play the two of them left and right of a midfield of the 3 with Declan Rice.
Mm.
But what we need is a focal point up there. So if Harry Kane's not going to stay up there and drop back, he's going to keep dropping back. I'm saying leave him out of the team. People are having a go at me for saying that. But, and don't get me wrong, I think Harry Kane's world class. But if you look at when England won the World Cup in '66, Jimmy Greaves was left out the side.
So would you put Bellingham up top then, or who would you put up top instead of Kane?
No. I would at this moment in time, I think I'd go with Ollie Watkins. Because he's doing well, he's pulling off the shoulder, he's making the back 4 honest, and what that does is leave it open for the midfield players to run through. But if Kane keeps dropping deep and there's no focal point, the teams can squeeze us up. They can squeeze us up because there's no focal point there. And don't get me wrong, I think Kane's world class. But what I'm saying is if he keeps dropping deep, and he can drop deep and pick a pass, but the problem is then Foden, Bellingham, the wide players that we've got, depending on the what system that Southgate plays, we're not getting.
Yeah,
Agreed. Yeah, it's quite poetic though, isn't it, that we sit here on a podcast together, and the two best players, I think, is in my personal opinion, and the two world-class players in that team, one's from Stockport and one's from Birmingham. Yeah, so that's quite nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Foden's a cracking player. He's absolutely cracking. So what's next for you then? Are you looking to go into management? What's on the cards for you at the moment, or are you the future for Carlton Palmer?
No, the future's done for me. I have no intention of going back into management. I know, you know what? It's difficult now, and I understand for other people, but it's hard, and it's hard work, and every supporter wants to see their team winning every weekend. It can't happen every weekend. And it's just really difficult. So it's not for me. I've retired now. I'm actually doing this podcast in Portugal. I'm sat in my villa in Portugal. My time is now with losing my wife, split my time between the UK and Portugal, spending time with the grandkids. My dad's got dementia, God bless him. You know, so that's where we are now. I'm done now with, you know, I've been very lucky. I've had a fantastic career. I've enjoyed everything that I've done, and I'm in a very fortunate position that I can do what I'm doing now. So it's not like I won't do any work if the right thing comes up, you know, for the Euros or whatever. I go to Kuala Lumpur where, you know, I do a bit of TV work for Astro Sports. If the right thing comes up and it suits me, fine. If not, I'm happy doing what I'm doing now. I've done my time.
Are you going to do any more coaching? Because you mentioned before we came on air about coming back from Shanghai, because you was doing coaching over there, wasn't you? So is there any plans of doing any of that? Because was that for an academy, for a school, or was that more of a professional?
No, I listen. Like I said, my wife asked me to come into her school the other day, private school, to do some coaching. I'm not saying no, but I'm not really now. I'm done now. I'm 58 now. When I look at my dad, he's got dementia. He's been not great for 4 years. I just want to live my life and enjoy my life now. I love football. I just can't do with the pressure that's there every time, every week. Managers live from Saturday to Saturday. That is not right. That is not right. They're living from Saturday to Saturday on the basis of, well, I got a result. Not that you're progressing people, not that you're developing young players, not that you're developing the football club. You're just relying on from Saturday to Saturday results. And I don't want to live like that, to be honest with you.
So going back to just one couple of final questions then, probably a big question. Going back to when you played for your clubs from sort of the 80s into the 90s, how it's an obvious question, but how much has football changed in your perspective from those days to today?
Oh, it's changed massively. And I think the biggest thing was the money. I listen, I'm not interested. Money's not my God, and it'll never be my God. But I remember when I went to Leeds United in '93, the money was just ridiculous. And I think that's what's created the problem in the game today. I never played football for money. I played football because I love football. I woke up on a Saturday morning going to Old Trafford, going to Anfield, going to wherever. I just wanted to play football. The fact that I earned good money out of it was good. And back in the day, you know, the top players earned good money. Nowadays, you can be a shit player and become a multi-millionaire. And that's the problem. And that is the problem that's ruined the game. So you've got people now, you've got to understand that you've got working class people who are going to a game now. And they might have 2 kids, 3 kids going to the game. The tickets are expensive, lunch is expensive, trains expensive, everything. And then you're looking at players and you're thinking, well, they're not worth it. But that didn't happen back in the day because the top players earned the top money. So when you went to the game, you knew what you were going to get. And that's what's ruined the game. So I'm happy to be out of it, to be honest with you.
So do you think a peak Carlton Palmer could play in the Premier League nowadays in the way football is played now? Do you think you'd make it into your likes of Leeds or, you know, maybe, you know, one of the top 6 or something like that? Do you think when you was at your peak, do you think you'd be able to?
You're having a laugh. I could play in Leeds team now. They're going about all this fitness and all this, that, but it's a load of fucking bollocks. You know, the stats are the stats, right? So if you go on, like I've got up this morning, I've run 6 miles, so 10K, and I've run it in just under 49 minutes at the age of 58. So at the end of the day, if you're fit, you're fit.
Okay.
That's it. End of story. Yep. These players today, they can't play 30 games a season. What a load of fucking bollocks. It's embarrassing. I don't play today because I couldn't be in the dressing room with these arseholes. It'd all go off.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, isn't it? Because I watch a lot of the punditry around sort of Gary Neville and Roy Keane and that, but I love Roy Keane's attitude, and maybe it's similar to yourself. He sort of says people give praise to players for doing things, and he goes, "Well, it's his job. You know what you giving him praise for? That's his job." And I quite like Roy Keane's aspect in that, and it's sort of, I think it aligns with what you're saying there.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Roy Keane, but I think
fair enough.
No, I'm not a big fan of him, but I do agree with what he's saying. At the end of the day, you've got your job to do. You get on and do your job. I think Roy Keane was a world-class midfield player. He was a world-class captain. I don't agree with the way he's always carried on and carried himself. But, the truth of the matter is he's absolutely right.
Mm.
You get paid to do your job. Do your job.
Yeah. Fair enough. We couldn't let you go without asking you about one manager you played under, Graham Taylor. What was he like as a boss and as a person?
Yeah, it was difficult for Graham. From a personal point of view, obviously he gave me my England caps and whatever. So, but for Graham, it was really difficult because he took over from Sir Bobby Robson. And they just nearly won Italian 90. And then players were finished. Players were coming to the end of their career who'd been in that squad. They were right at the edge of the end of their career. And listen, I'm not going to say this because, I've got a lot of time for Graham Taylor, but I'm not going to say that. At the end of the day, it's all about circumstances. It's all about timing. And Graham took over at England at the wrong time in terms of Alan Shearer had, 2 caps. He had, when we went to the European Championships, there was a lot of players who hadn't been capped. So it's very, very difficult. But he's, honestly, for me, I'm all about, Ron Atkinson, Howard Wilkinson, Graham Taylor. They are fantastic blokes. And that's the way I look. Dave Jones, I'll put him in that category. Dave Jones, when I went to Southampton, what a lovely bloke he was. Treated me unbelievably well.
Yeah, another cult hero at County.
Yeah,
exactly,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Perfect. So just one final question. How far do you think the current county squad and management can go?
It's always difficult because, as you start to move up the leagues, it's about money. County have been bankrolled to get to where they have. They brought the players in and whatever. So it's all about money. I think if they stick with Dave Chandler, they're trying to sign the boy from Aston Villa, the centre forward. I think he's a really good player for them. I'd love, you never know. Because the problem is, as Stockport go on, it's about the crowd. The crowd dictates the amount of money you can spend in terms of fair play and whatever. You know, so we'll have to see how it goes on. I wish Dave Chandler all the success in the world. He's a lovely, like I said to you, he's a lovely, lovely guy. He's a stand-up guy. And, let's see what County can achieve in the next few years.
Brilliant.
Superb.
Thank you very much, Carlton. We're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us live from Portugal. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me on. No
problem. Enjoy your evening, and hopefully speak to you soon. Cheers for the insight and cheers for the stories.
Take care now. Thank
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Gleeson! It's a cracker! Stephen Gleeson! What a beauty!
So that was Carlton Palmer. What do you think about that?
Brilliant. It was really good, wasn't it? A couple of stories I've not heard before in the midst of all that. As you say, he's a good talker, isn't he? You know what I mean? He's not backwards at coming forwards. So I thought it was a really good interview. I think we as we sort of mentioned at the beginning, we twisted it around and didn't just talk about the normal sort of stuff at County. I think we tried to have a bit of a different angle, angle on it.
Yeah, I must admit I did feel out of place because I was the only one not drinking, so I've got to make reference to that. But no, you're right. It was. I think it was different to what has been said before. I like some of the stories. My overall feeling at the time was, wow, we've got an England international managing us, and he's going to be the player manager as well. So we've got an England international, former England international, going to play for us. And whatever your opinion is of him, I do think he had his hands tied behind his back, and he sort of said that, didn't he, as well, in so many words.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, the overall was, wow, we've got Carlton Palmer coming in, but then I think just because of the way that the club was and the position we was in, and obviously he sort of touched on it that the wage bill was so high that my understanding from a fan's point of view, what I saw personally was he's coming as a hatchet man. He's coming to prepare us for League One. He's going to get rid of all the high earners, all the big bucks, all the big names. And then as he sort of pretty much said himself, and then like blood the youngsters, bring the youngsters in. And I think, maybe if he had been given a bit more time and Kennedy hadn't took over, then, things would have been very different.
Yeah. It could have been. And Charlie, like I said on the interview as well, Charlie confirmed that the club was being, dismantled brick by brick almost, wasn't it, at that time?
Yeah.
And that was the start of the dark days when Kennedy took over. That was the original start of the dark days. So I feel a bit sorry for Carlton that he didn't get sort of the rub of the green, or it wasn't a better job for him. I mean, the record speaks for itself, though. Played 91 as a manager, lost 50. It was a results business. You're not going to get away with that. But I just think the perception at the time was that he was a crap manager for Stockport County, when I think there was more to it than that, and I think it was unfair. Yeah. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, though, isn't it? So
of course it is. Living in the moment, and I think that's how most county fans at the time, that's the way that they felt. So it does sort of tarnish. But then when you do look back and deep dive a bit more and listen and physically listen to him, I think you get a bit more of an understanding of, as we said, what was going on at the time and how it progressed from there, and the decline that we had from that point on.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's always associated with that start of the decline, isn't he? Unfortunately.
Yes. Yeah, he is. Yeah, and when I think of some of the other managers we've had as well, I don't think Carlton's anywhere near the ones that are the worst. He's not
in the bottom five. He's certainly not in the bottom 5, bottom 10 managers that we've had, is he?
Exactly. Yeah, and what a lovely bloke as well. He's give his time to come and speak to us and be honest and open. And I thought, he's very honest and open. He wasn't, like you say, he wasn't backwards in coming forward. So good stuff. Right. Well, I hope everybody listening has enjoyed this. We are going to get some more guests on throughout the summer. Hopefully we're going to contact them and see if they're going to come on and fill that void between now and August the 10th or 11th or whatever day Sky decide to put our match on.
Yeah.
Opening
game of the season away at Wrexham.
You had to mention the W word, right? I'm closing it off. Jesus Christ. Right, cheers everybody. Please like, review, like the video, review on the podcast page you're listening to, and all those good things. And do subscribe to our Patreon if you want more of this kind of content and you want it ad free. That's what you get, and you get it early as well. So cheers everybody, and we will see you very, very soon.
Cheers, thank you.